What's going on, everybody? This is Mike with Film Facet, and this is a new video series. I have a lot of them. There are a lot of new ones. It's a new channel, so there you go. So this is favorite years in film. There's always, it just depends on your station in life, your upbringing, stuff like that, of what you would consider a great year in films. Like, to me, growing up, to give you a little context, I was 14 years old in 1980. So I saw all of the 80s movies in the theater, most of the big ones. I was very big into movies growing up. I saw Star Wars at the age of 11, which is a perfect time to see it. And we're off and running with the movies. After that, my imagination was captured, and I wanted to learn everything about movies and filmmaking and the whole thing. I wanted to be a filmmaker because of Star Wars. So, growing up in the 80s, I paid a lot of attention to movies in general. TV shows, movies, you name it. I was into it. And I can't think of a bigger year in film as far as the movies that I liked, that I was uh, inspired by, than the year 1982. It was a great year for films, in my opinion. One of the greatest years ever. Also my opinion. So we're going to talk about 1982, but we're going to do it in a way, because there's a lot to cover in that year. We're going to do it by month. So this video is going to cover the films released in January of 1982. Okay? And the very first movie that came out that was released in 1982 was a horror film, a horror slasher film called MadMan, which came out of Canada and was released on New Year's Day, January 1st of 1982. Okay? Here's the weird thing about January of 1982. From the 1st of January until the 22nd of January, that was the only film that was released in that month. Okay? There were several others that premiered on the 22nd of that month, and then one more that was premiered on the 29th. We'll get into all those, but we're going to kind of go through each one. I will tell you the synopsis or whatever the plot, the basic story of each film, and I'll tell you some of the impact it had personally on me. And then, of course, there's a lot of movies that I have no personal experience with, and we'll just talk about those. So it's interesting to me that there was such a lull, like a 3-week lull of movies not being released in January of 82. And you gotta figure it's probably because of the strong December of 1981. A lot of those films were still being played in cinemas in January of 82. I would imagine that's partially the reason why there was such a lull in between the 1st and the 22nd of that month in that year. So, some of the movies that probably were, super popular still was probably this one, which won a lot of Academy Awards, including Best Picture that year. Chariots of Fire was still playing. So I picked a couple movies that I thought would probably still be grabbing audiences' attention in January of 82, that early in that month. Chariots of Fire is obviously going to be one of those. Neighbors with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd was probably another one. Although I will say it did not fare very well at the box office or with critics, it was universally panned as just a shit movie. I can't tell you anything about it. I have seen the film when I was a kid. I don't remember nothing about it. Maybe that should tell you something. So, another modern problem was pretty big. I know it came out around Christmas of 81. It was probably still playing. Not the greatest Chevy Chase film in the world. But then again, this was his big first film after his success on Saturday Night Live. And well, there you have it. Ghost Story was another one that was really popular at the time. I'm sure it had legs in January as well. The Fred Astaire, Melvin Douglas, Douglas Fairbanks, John Houseman horror Ghost Story. Also has Craig Wasson in it. It's really a great film. It's a fun film. I wouldn't necessarily call it a great film. What's great about Ghost Story is all the great makeup effects done by Dick Smith, who is legendary in that realm. Um, Sharky's Machine, one of the best Burt Reynolds films. By the way, he directed that too. One of the best Burt Reynolds films from the early 80s is definitely Sharky's Machine. And then Taps, I know, was a big hit, and it was critically acclaimed. Great performances by George C. Scott and Timothy Hutton. And that was probably the reason why. So, as we get into it, um, let me get rid of this. So when we get into all that stuff, um, that's kind of the way it is. Um, so when we get into why they didn't release, I'm pretty sure that's probably the reason why, because there was a strong holiday movie going season. Anyway, let's talk about MadMan. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each of these movies. I don't have a lot of connection with MadMan. I've actually never seen the movie, although it's in my collection back there somewhere one of these days. Anyway, the movie was originally called Madman: The Legend Lives. It's a slasher film. Here's the movie poster. I think it fared fairly well. That was one of the films. It's another slasher film. They're jumping on the Halloween bandwagon. This 82 slasher films were like having a heyday at this time because of Halloween and Friday the 13th and movies like that. Everybody thought they could make a slasher. This guy thought he could too. I have not seen it. I can't tell you anything. I know Galen Ross is in it. If you're a horror fan that's worth their weight, you know who she is. She was in Dawn of the Dead. So I know originally this movie, I'm going to read some of this. Originally based on the upstate New York urban legend of the Cropsey Maniac, the film was conceived by Joe Giasone and producer Gary Sales, both first-time feature filmmakers who had met in college. Their initial premise and main antagonist was changed last minute due to conflicts with another horror film that came out in 1981 called The Burning, which, by the way, was produced and co-written by Harvey Weinstein. So, of course, years after it has, home video has made cult classics of a lot of these types of low B horror slasher films, and this is one of them. Um, So we have that film that came out in uh, January 1st of 82. And then, of course, we didn't have any more films being released until the 22nd. And there was quite a few on the 22nd that came out. There's about 5 or 6 of them. And we are going to find those. You can see me working right on the fly here, guys, because I don't like to over edit my videos because it looks like I'm trying to hide something or I'm trying to, remove something that I didn't like. So I like making these videos like live, and even though I need to do some things to correct some stuff, I don't hit stop. just, that's just the way it is, man. So anyway, we're going past MadMan, and we're going to this film. Okay? So we're going to go to this movie. We're going to talk about it for a little bit. Let's just do this. Okay. So here is another slasher film. It's called Death Valley. There's the poster. So Death Valley came out in January 22nd of 82. Okay? And it's another slasher film. Paul Lamont, Catherine Hicks, Wilford Brimley are in it. It centers on a divorcee and her child being stalked by a serial killer after the boy picks up an object that can help tie the killer to his crimes. Have not seen the film. It sounds pretty good. Might have to look it up. So there's that one. Okay, that came out on the 22nd. So did The Seduction with Morgan Fairchild. There's a picture, the poster. So, The Seduction is a 1982 thriller film written and directed by David Schmoller and starring Morgan Fairchild, Michael Sarrazin, Vince Edwards, and Andrew Stevens. Its plot follows a Los Angeles news anchor who is aggressively pursued by an obsessive male stalker. Kind of know where that one's going. I will say of note that the producer of Halloween produced this film as well, Irwin Yablans. So there's that. Here is a more of like a drama film called Shoot the Moon, starring Albert Finney and Diane Keaton, which also came out on the 22nd. The film follows George, Albert Finney, and Faith Dunlap Keaton, whose deteriorating marriage, separation, and love affairs devastate their 4 children. The title of the film alludes to the move of shooting the moon in the card game Hearts. I've heard good things about the film, have not seen it. It's another one I need to put on my list. Karen Allen and Peter Weller co-star in this film. It's got it's a good. It has gotten good reviews in the past, and I can't talk. Okay, here's one of my favorite. This is probably one of my most favorite films early from '82, and that's Vice Squad. I saw it many times on Showtime. They liked to show it late at night, and I liked to stay up late at night during that time period. So, it's about a down on her luck Los Angeles businesswoman turned prostitute known only by her street name Princess, who is played by Susan Hubley. There's a very psychotic violent pimp that is her pimp, played by Wings Hauser, who brutalizes her over and over again during the course of this film. And also during the course of the film, she seeks help from a policeman, Gary, played by Gary Swanson, to protect her. And eventually he goes after the psycho. And it's really a good movie. It's really great. A couple of years ago, Shout Factor released it on Blu-ray for the first time. So there's that one. Those are the only films that came out in the 20s on the 22nd. There was one more movie that came out in January of that year, and that was a Jack Nicholson drama film called The Border. Now, I have seen The Border, and it's very good. It's a neo-noir drama film. So basically, well, first, who's in it? Jack Nicholson, Harvey Keitel, Valerie Perrine, Warren Oates, a lot of people. So basically, immigration enforcement agent Charlie Smith lives in California with his wife Marcy in a trailer. She persuades him to move to a duplex in El Paso, shared by her friend and border agent Kat. She opens a charge account and starts to purchase expensive items like a waterbed as she tries to build a dream home. Kat eventually introduces Charlie to the human smuggling operation he runs with his supervisor, Red. Boy, that sounds problematic. So basically, Charlie finally realizes that Kat and Red are killing drivers who make money off of ventures of anyone who gets in their way, little side jobs instead of human smuggling, what they're supposed to be doing. Charlie makes it clear to Kat that he will not be a party to murder. And in the film's climax, he is forced to kill him. So it's a good movie. Yes, I just spoiled the ending. You're welcome. It's still a good movie. That came out on the 29th of January. And that's January of 1982. A lot of good films. Some of them, The Border, for sure, is a good one. And of course, it's piggybacking on those really good releases from December of 81. So you had all these movies playing all at the same time. Pretty awesome. I just can't say enough good things about 1982's films. They're just so good. And for people who don't have any context to 80s movies or what they would consider, a lot of people grow up just, and even I see it still today, even me. There's a bunch of movies from 82 I haven't watched yet. And that's my favorite year in film. So there's a lot of stuff that you're not exposed to right away. Hopefully some of these videos will show someone who hasn't seen any of these movies to take a chance on it. And seek these movies out. With streaming, with on demand, with home video and physical media, you can pretty much find any film out there. And you may have to wait a week or two for the video disc to come in. And that's okay. Or you can be lucky and find it on YouTube, or you can find it on Netflix or something like that. So I hope that I can at least broaden somebody's perspective on older films like movies from 1982. And as far as that goes, this is it on this video. We have covered January of 82. Obviously, the next video will be February of 82. and I have no idea. I can't remember exactly what came out that month. So no previews. I can't give you a preview of movies I'm going to cover in the next video because I don't know what they are. Until then, this is Mike with Film Facet.